evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're in the Zera Shimshon on Parsha's Vayechi in the sefer. We're going to do Os Daled, God willing, and Os Hey, sections 4 and 5. In the sefer, we're on Daf Tuf Mem Vav. Just before we start, I want to thank Yisrael Hamnik. He has, and many of you might know this already, but he has put together lists of the typographical errors that appear in the sefer. The Zera Shimshon sefer itself, the two svarim of the two volumes of the set are just beautifully printed, but like almost any sefer, sometimes little errors have crept into the text, and he has listed those, and we're actually going to come across several of those in tonight's discussion, and so I want to thank him for making those corrections, and I'll mention them as we go through. In order to understand the two pieces that we're going to look at, it's important to read a few of the psukim from the beginning of Parshas Vayechi, and so I'm going to do that. Right at the start of the Parsha, the Torah tells us that Yaakov was 147 years old, and then the Torah says as follows: Vayikruvu Yemei Yisrael Lamus, and the days of Yisrael, that's Yaakov Avinu, came close to his death. Vayikro livno Yosef, and he called to his son to Yosef. Vayomer lo, and he said to him, Imna matzasi chen be'einecha, if please I have found favor in your eyes, sim no yodcha tachas yirechi, place your hand under my thigh, ve'asisa imadi chesed ve'emes, and do with me kindness and truth. Al no sikfareni b'Mitzrayim, please do not bury me in the land of Mitzrayim. V'shachafti mavosai, and I will lie with my fathers. That means when I die. Unisasani mitzrayim, then you should carry me from Egypt. Ukivartani v'kfurasam, and bury me in their burial place. That, of course, is Ma'arasa Machpelah, the cave of Machpelah, and that is Yaakov's request to Yosef. Vayomer, and Yosef said, Anochi esech idvarecha, I will do according to your words. Vayomer, and Yaakov said back to Yosef, Hishavali, swear to me. Vayishavalo, and he swore to him. Vayishtachu Yisrael al Rosh Hamitah, and Yisrael bowed, Yaakov Avinu bowed at the head of the bed. So those three psukim, of course, encapsulate the story of Yaakov Avinu's request to Yosef, saying, I'm now 147 years old. I don't know exactly when I'm going to die, but whenever that happens, I want you to swear to me and commit to me that you will not allow me to be buried in Egypt, but rather I should be brought back to Eretz Canaan and buried in the family tomb of Ma'arasa Machpelah. Yosef commits to that, and the Zera Shimshon is going to discuss and analyze those psukim for us. Section 4, Os Daled, Pasuk. The Pasuk says, Simna yodcha tachas yirechi, place please your hand under my thigh. We just saw that that's what Yaakov Avinu asked Yosef to do, and the Zera Shimshon brings down Rashi's explanation of those words. Pirish Rashi explains, V'hi shavali, and take an oath to me. So when Yaakov said to Yosef, put your hand under my thigh, that was a language that was understood. Those words indicated that he wanted Yosef to take an oath. Of course, this is very reminiscent of what happened back with Avram Avinu when he asked his servant Eliezer, and he said the same words, put your hand under my thigh, and he had Eliezer take an oath that he would not bring Yitzchak, that he would not allow Yitzchak to marry a woman from Canaan, but rather he would try and find a woman back in the family homeland of Padan Aram, of Haran, and that area, and bring a woman to Yitzchak. And of course, that's what happened with Eliezer found Rivka. But in any case, Rashi explains that the words, the phrase, Sim no yodcha tachas yirechi, place your hand under my thigh, was Yaakov saying to Yosef to take an oath, telling Yosef to take an oath to him. Kosha, this is difficult, as Zera Shimshon says. Lama Yosef lo nishtalo miyad. Why didn't Yosef immediately swear to his father? Shehutzrach Yaakov lachzor lomer lo hishavali. That made it necessary for Yaakov Avinu to repeat a couple of psukim later, as we just saw, swear to me. In other words, the question is, if according to Rashi. When Yaakov Avinu said to Yosef, put your hand under my thigh, that was a request at that moment for Yosef to take an oath. Then why did Yaakov then a few psukim later have to say to Yosef again, Hishavali, swear to me? Why didn't Yosef take the oath right away? Ve'im tomar Yosef nishpalo miyad, and if you say maybe he did swear right away, maybe Yosef in fact did swear right away, when Yaakov Avinu had first said to him, place your hand under my thigh, Im kain lama chazar Yaakov lomar hishavali, then why did Yaakov say a few psukim later, swear to me, if Yosef had already taken an oath? Trei shvuos lamali, why would Yaakov want Yosef to take two oaths? So let's pause for a moment. What we have is here is the Zera Shimshon is kind of asking what the Gemara would call mimanafshach. Either way you look at this, there's a question. If you say that Yosef immediately swore when Yaakov Avinu, when his father said to him, place your hand under my thigh, then the question becomes, how come a few psukim later, Yaakov again said hishavali, as if Yosef needed to take a second oath? Why would Yosef need to swear twice? However, if you say no, Yosef did not swear right away when his father said, Simnot yodcha tachas yirechi, place your hand under my thigh, and he only swore later on when Yaakov a few psukim later said, Hishavali, swear to me. Then the question is, why did Yosef wait? Why didn't he swear as soon as his father asked him to? So that's our kind of swing or pivot first question. It has a part A and a part B. The Od Kasha, and here's another question. Shemitchila Yaakov Omar, in the beginning, Yaakov said, Simna, place please. Lashon Bakasha, this is a language of making a request. Ki'ilu mevakesh hadover meish nochri, derech mitzias chen. As if Yaakov used the language as if he was asking a favor from a stranger. In other words, he was being very polite and making a request of Yosef, which is not necessarily the language we would expect him to use with his son, with Yosef HaTzadik. But he used that kind of language. Please do me a favor and put your hand under my thigh and take an oath. And after Yosef responded to the initial request and he said, I will do according to your word, after Yosef said, Az Amar Lo Beloshen Tzivoy. Then Yaakov used a stronger language, a language of command. He shavali, swear to me, Kemoshe hu derech ha'av litzavos lebeno, which would be the normal way of a father who is talking about something on his deathbed, telling his son, this is what I need you to do. I want you to do this. This is what you need to do. And so the Zera Shimshon is asking, why the two different approaches? Why the two different kinds of languages here? Why did Yaakov start off the conversation very polite with making a polite request as if it was at Yosef's discretion? I'd like you to do me a favor, Yosef, and commit to not bury me in Egypt. Why did Yaakov start that way? And then a few psukim later, he says, he shavali, in a commanding way. Swear to me, commit to this completely. Not asking a request, but saying this is what Yosef needed to do. He was requiring Yosef to do something. Why did Yaakov go and use both of those approaches? The Od Kasha, and another question, the final question of the Zera Shimshon in this piece, Shetevas li miuseres. The word to me and the phrase he shavali, swear to me, is extra. All Yaakov apparently should have said or needed to say was he shava, swear that you're going to do this. Why did he say he shavali, swear to me that you're going to do this? So those are the Zera Shimshon's questions. So again, we had the few psukim that we looked at in which Yaakov made his basic request was to Yosef to say, commit to me, swear to me that you will not let me be buried in Egypt, in Mitzrayim, but rather I will be taken back to Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Canaan, to be buried there. And in those few psukim, the Zera Shimshon found several points to question and to want to analyze to get a deeper meaning of the conversation and the dialogue between Yaakov Avinu and Yosef. So now he's going to explain the psukim in a way that will answer these questions. Second paragraph in the second column on Daf Taf Mem Vav in the sefer. V'yesh lomar, and we can say, shemitchila lo hayayochel Yaakov litzavos liyosef b'tzivoy gomor. In the beginning, Yaakov Avinu could not and did not wish to command his son with an absolute command, Shelo yikbaruhu b'Mitzrayim, that he should not be buried in Egypt. Shahare lav bidei de Yosef tol Yamilsa, because it was not in Yosef's power to completely handle this matter. Yosef did not have the ability to make a full ironclad commitment that Yaakov would not be buried in Egypt. Why not? The Dilma Paro lo yiten lo rishus, because perhaps Paro would not give him permission lekavro be'eretz Yisrael, to bury Yaakov Avinu in Eretz Yisrael. Ela adarabah, but just the opposite. It was actually likely that Paro's will would be just the opposite. Yirtzeh shekavruhu sheyikbaruhu b'Mitzrayim. It was very likely that Paro would want Yaakov Avinu to be buried in Egypt. Just as an aside, we know from Chazal that Paro was extremely impressed with Yaakov Avinu, and so it makes sense that he would have wanted, for the prestige of Egypt, he would want this great righteous spiritual master and leader to be buried in Egypt, as opposed to apparently rejecting Egypt and saying, I don't want to be buried here, I want to be buried back in Eretz Canaan. That could be viewed by Paro as an insult and be viewed by Paro as something disgraceful to Egypt. So therefore, it was unlikely that Paro would accede to this request. Ve'ein derech ha'av litzavos levano b'tzivoy gomor. It is not the way, it's not the appropriate way for a father to command his son, to demand of his son to do something that is dependent upon other people. If it's something that was completely in Yosef's control, well, then it would make sense. Yosef, this is your call, it's completely up to you, and this is what I want you to do. But in this case, that was not the case. Yosef could not make the final decision about this. If Paro refused to allow Yaakov's body to leave Egypt, and that was the end of the story. Yaakov's body could not leave Egypt, and he would have to be buried in Mitzrayim. So therefore, the Zera Shimshon says, when Yaakov Avinu started the conversation with Yosef, he specifically, consciously did not make a command and say, this is what you must do. And that's why Yaakov started the conversation with a language of request. What he was saying to Yosef was, I want you to commit to me to use all of your abilities, all of the power that you do have, lehishtadel, to make the attempt, to make the effort, al zeh, to accomplish this. Kedei sheparo yiten lo rishus. In order, do everything you can to get Paro to give you permission. So that's why he used the Lashon Bakasha, saying, it's as if Yaakov was saying to Yosef, I understand that Paro has the final call here, so I can't demand that you do this. It's not completely under your control, but I'm asking you to commit and to swear that you will do everything you can to convince Paro to give you permission to arrange for me to be buried in Eretz Canaan. The Yosef Heshiv, and Yosef responded, Anochi esech idvarecha, I will do according to your words. And Yosef could have said, I will do it, v'sulo, and no more, meaning the Zera Shimshon is saying, why did Yosef add the word chidvarecha? I will do it according to your words. That seems to be an unnecessary extra word. Elakach ratza Yosef lirmos liYaakov, but what Yosef wanted to hint to Yaakov with that extra word was Shahadavar yeh kidevoro shel Yaakov, that this matter would be handled according to the words of Yaakov. Shediber b'lashon bakasha, that he spoke as a request. Yaakov understood he was making a request, not a demand, because Yosef, he couldn't guarantee the outcome. And therefore, Yosef was saying back, I will handle this according to the way you presented it, as a request that you're making to me, with the understanding that Paro is in control here, not me. Because this matter is ultimately going to be depend upon the will of Paro. But if Paro doesn't want to give permission to Yosef, then there's no way that Yosef could swear to use all of his power. she'eno min hadin laharbos hafzoros lamelech. It was not considered lawful. It was against the protocols to ask too many times to try and persuade the king to do something if he said no. And the oath would be nullified from the beginning, meaning that Yosef was responding to Yaakov and saying, I'm absolutely willing to do this, but kidvarecha, according to the way you, Yaakov Avinu, the way you phrased it. You phrased it that you were asking a request of me because you understood that it's not in my control. It's in Paro. Ultimately, it's up to Paro. And therefore, according with that understanding, I'm committing, Anochi Asech Varech, I'll handle it the way you're asking me to handle it, to do my best to ask Paro. But if Paro says no, we both understand, Yosef is saying to his father, we both understand there's nothing I can do. Was the first part of the conversation between Yaakov and Yosef. V'lochein Amar lo Yaakov, and therefore after that Yaakov said to Yosef, Hishava li lasos hadover hazeh. Now I want to go to the next step. I want to take it a step further. Swear to me that you will do this thing. Sha'az lo yuchal paro lemain, because then Paro will not be able to refuse. Yaakov is saying, I understand you can't totally commit, but if you take an oath to me, then Paro is going to have a hard time telling you to violate your oath. As Chazal explain on the pasuk that ultimately Paro says to Yosef, go up and bury your father according to that which he made you swear. Meaning Paro said, your father got you to commit an oath. He told you needed to swear to do this. So now go up and swear that you will in fact, and you swore that you would do it. And so now go up and fulfill your oath. We'll get back to the Gemara here that he quotes Sota Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis, very interesting Gemara. We'll get back to that in one moment. And this was the solution to the problem and the proposal, the suggestion that Yaakov gave to Yosef, in order to compel Paro to give permission. As Chazal explained in that Gemara, and I'm just going to just briefly tell you that Gemara. It's an amazing Gemara. Sota Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis. What happens over there is the Gemara is discussing the very first time that Paro had proposed that Yosef would become the viceroy, the second in command. So the Gemara tells us that Paro's advisor said that's impossible. One of the requirements for that position would be that the person has to speak the 70 languages of the countries of the people of the world at that time. There were 70 languages, which the Torah actually lists the 70 nations at that time. And so and a person who would be the viceroy, the second in command in Egypt, would have to be fluent in those 70 languages. So Paro said, I understand, and I'll check with Yosef tomorrow to see if he knows the 70 languages. So that night, Yosef did not know the 70 language. So the Gemara says that night, the Malach Gabriel came and tried to teach Yosef the 70 languages, and he wasn't successful. Yosef could not master the 70 languages. So the Gemara tells us that Gabriel added the letter Hey to Yosef's name. From the name of Hashem, he took a Hey and he added it. And that's why sometimes we see in Tanakh, Yosef is referred to as Yehosef. And by the addition of that letter, that enabled Yosef to learn the 70 languages overnight. So the next day, Paro came and tested him and started speaking to him in the different languages, and Yosef knew them and could converse with Paro in the 70 languages. And then the Gemara says, Yosef then said, okay, I've shown I know the 70 languages, and he started to talk to Paro in Lashon HaKodesh to see if Paro could speak Lashon HaKodesh. And Paro could not understand it. And Paro said, what language is that? Yosef said, Lashon HaKodesh, this is the language that my family speaks. Paro said, teach it to me. And Yosef tried to teach Paro Lashon HaKodesh, and Paro was not able to learn it. And he was frustrated. He wanted to learn it. And so the Gemara says that Paro said, you have to swear to me, Yosef, that you will not reveal the fact that I could not learn this language, and I asked you to teach it to me, and you weren't able, and I wasn't successful. This all has to be a secret, a state secret between the two of us, and you have to swear not to reveal it. So the Gemara says Yosef swore. Then, much later on, when Yosef came to Paro and he said, I swore to my father that I would not bury him in Egypt and I would take him up to Eretz Canaan, Eretz Yisrael, to be buried, Paro said, okay, you took an oath. Why don't you go to your wise men, your chachamim of your people, and have your oath annulled? And Yosef said, I could do that. But if I do that, I'm also going to have my original oath to you annulled. Once we start annulling oaths, then I'm going to have that. I could always have that oath annulled. And so Paro did not want his secret to be revealed about being incapable of learning Lashon HaKodesh. So the Gemara tells us he ultimately said to, under duress, said to Yosef, go and keep the oath that you swore to your father and bury him back in Eretz Yisrael. And that way all of the oaths were maintained and were kept. So that's what that Gemara and Sota teaches us. Ulefi, back to the text. Ulefi shahaya avshar shahaf la'achar ashua para yiksha libo. Since it was possible that even after Yosef told Paro about his oath, Paro might have been stubborn and refused, and he would still not have given permission for Yosef to bury his father in Eretz Yisrael. And then the oath would be nullified. It would be a terrible thing for Yosef to make an oath, to take a solemn oath to his father and then not be able to carry it out. Lakach hosif tevas li. That's why Yaakov added the word li, to me. He shava li, take an oath to me. Remember, that was the last question in the first paragraph that the Zera Shimshon asked. Why did Yaakov add this word li? Klomar, Yaakov meant to say, he shava li al dati. I want you to take an oath to me according to my understanding of the oath. Ve'ani ein dati shetachol hashvul ela kishiten locha paro rishus. According to my view of the oath, this is only taking effect if Paro gives you permission. So Yaakov implanted a loophole from the beginning that the oath would only take effect if Paro gave permission. If Paro refused permission, then the oath would be batal, it would be nullified, and it would not be a sin. It would not be a problem for Yosef not to keep the oath. But this secret would only be known to Yaakov and Yosef. According to the rest of the world, they would think this was an ironclad oath with no loopholes. And when Paro said to Yosef, go and have your oath to your father annulled, as we just quoted from that Gemara in Sota, Amar Le, Yosef said back to Paro, then I might have to also have my oath to you annulled about you not learning Lashon, being able to learn Lashon HaKodesh, v'chuli, etc. Kida amrinon beperek shvi'i. In the text, you'll see it says beperek comma. That is a typo. It should say beperek shvi. And the seventh parak of Maseches Sota. And so that ends the piece. So let's just recap Os Daled before we go on to Os Hey. What happened here is the Zera Shimshon took the few psukim from the beginning of our Parsha, Parsha's Vayechi, and he said there's a very important, short but important, meaningful dialogue here between Yaakov and Yosef about Yaakov's desire to be buried back in Eretz Yisrael and wanting to get Yosef to commit to that. And the Zera Shimshon said if we analyze the dialogue, we see there are some unusual features here, problematic features. That he starts with a request, then he turns it into a command. He starts by saying, put your hand under my thigh, which is a request to make an oath, but then he says, he shavali, swear to me. Are there two oaths? Are there one oath? Was Yosef not willing to take an oath and only later he took an oath? And why did Yaakov say he shavali, swear to me? Why didn't he just say swear? So based on those questions, the Zera Shimshon says, it helps us understand, it points us to what was the dynamic of the dialogue between Yaakov and Yosef. And as the Zera Shimshon explained, Yaakov knew from the beginning he didn't want to tell his son, give him a direct command, so he made a request. Once Yosef acceded to the request to do his best to convince Paro, then Yaakov said, you know what, I see your problem with Paro, so now he shavali. Swear to me. Why? Not because I changed my mind and I think that you can do this on your own, but rather because you're dependent upon Paro, take an oath so that you can go to Paro and said, my father made me swear. I swore. I can't break my oath. And this, in fact, turned out to be a vital piece in the puzzle because Paro, based on the Gemara in Maseches Sota, because of the oath, that put Paro in a bind, and he ultimately agreed to say to Yosef, keep your oath. I want you to keep all of your oaths, Yosef. Keep the oath that you made to me many years ago to keep our interaction secret, and keep the oath to your father and go up and bury him in Eretz Yisrael, which Yosef was zochet to do. Yosef and the brothers merited to bring Yaakov Avinu's remains back to be buried in Maras HaMachpelah. That's the end of section of Os Daled. Let's now jump right into Os Hey. Os Hey also focuses on a few words in the psukim that we read from the beginning of our Parsha, Parshas Vayechi. So let's take a look at that. Pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'asiso imadi chesed ve'emes," and do for me kindness and truth. So we saw that when Yaakov was talking to Yosef about not being buried in Egypt but being buried back in Eretz Canaan, in Eretz Yisrael, he characterized that request as chesed ve'emes. He said to Yosef, "I want you to do for me a kindness and a truth." What does that mean? What does that phrase, a kindness and a truth, mean? So Pirush Rashi. Rashi explains, chesed ve'emes, the term kindness and truth, refers to chesed she'osim im hamesim. This refers to a kindness that one does for the deceased. Who chesed shel emes, that is a chesed of emes, a kindness, a kind act which is completely true. She'eno mitzaper l'tashlum gemul, because the person who does this act of chesed for the deceased cannot possibly respect any payback, a recompense, or reward, since he's doing it for a person who has already passed from this world. So Rashi explains that's what chesed ve'emes means. When Yaakov said do a kindness and a truth, he meant do a kindness that is pure, that is altruistic. It's emes. It's an emestic chesed, because you can't have any ulterior motive, like I'll do this so I can get paid, so I can get rewarded. No, this is a chesed shel emes that you're doing for a deceased person who can't possibly pay you back in any way. That's how Rashi explains the phrase. Hikshu hameforshim. So the commentators asked a question. Shahare Rashi atzmo kosov lekomon al pasuk. Rashi himself explains later on a later pasuk, ve'ani nasati lecha shchem echad al achecha. Later on, Yaakov says to Yosef, when the Jewish people are redeemed from Egypt and they're brought back up to Eretz Yisrael in the future, I'm going to give you, Yosef, a special inheritance, an additional inheritance of the city of Shechem. And Rashi says, why did Yaakov do that? Because you are getting involved in making the arrangements for my burial. So I want to give you a piece of inheritance, a special land of inheritance where you will be buried. Ad kan lashono, until here is the language of Rashi. So let's pause for a moment and understand what's happening before we hear the Zera Shimshon's question. Yaakov Avinu had this original conversation with Yosef that we saw in the Chumash, but then later on, Yaakov called back Yosef and he said to him, I want you to know that I'm giving you something special. I'm giving you the inheritance of the city of Shechem, back in Eretz Canaan, and you will be buried there ultimately. And why am I doing that? Why do you get this special gift? Because you are getting involved in the arrangements to bury me in Eretz Canaan. So now the Zera Shimshon's question is going to be a very strong one. In Cain, if so, Eino od chesed shel emes. This can no longer be what Yosef did for Yaakov Avinu, cannot be considered a chesed shel emes. Shahari shilim lo gemulo, because he was paid for his kindness. He was rewarded. Yosef was rewarded for what he did. Shenasan lo nachalo, because Yaakov Avinu gave him a special inheritance of the city of Shechem. So Rashi, you might say, there's a contradiction in the Rashis. On the one hand, Rashi insists that Yaakov Avinu that Yosef did a special kindness, a chesed shel emes, for his father by burying him in Eretz Yisrael, and he wasn't paid back, he wasn't rewarded in any way. On the other hand, Rashi tells us that Yaakov specifically told Yosef before he died, you, Yosef, are going to get a nachal, a special inheritance of the city of Shechem, because of the chesed you're doing for me, because of you being involved in my arranging for my burial back in Eretz Yisrael. So the question is clear as to how it either is a chesed shel emes because there's no reward, or it's not a chesed shel emes because there is a payback, there is a reward. The Zera Shimshon says to see answers and discussions of this question, you can look in the Ra'im and the Yafet Torah, but of course, the Zera Shimshon is going to provide his own approach and his own answer to this question. Bottom of the first column, Venira Lomar, and it appears to say, Yaakov lo tziva leYosef, that Yaakov did not command to Yosef, Ela shelo yitbaruhu b'Mitzrayim. Yaakov's original command, as we saw in the psukim that we read in the very beginning of tonight's discussion, we saw that Yaakov said, don't bury me in Egypt. Don't allow me to be buried in Egypt. It was Yosef who decided on his own unilaterally to add to this mitzvah, and to get personally involved in making the burial arrangements for his father. As we discussed coming up, which means that the Zera Shimshon is referring to the next piece, Os Vav. Corresponding to the promise that Yaakov had Yosef make not to bury him in Egypt, that is what Yaakov Avinu referred to as a kindness of truth, a kindness with no reward. Because no reward was given to Yosef for that. Yosef made a completely altruistic commitment to his father to say, I will absolutely do my best to make sure you're not buried in Egypt, and do my best to convince Paro to allow me to bury you in Mitzrayim, and for you to be allowed to be buried there. That was black and white. That was kind of, again, stage one of the process. And when Yaakov came towards the end of his life, a little later in the Parsha, and he saw what was going to happen. Hashem showed him what was going to happen in the future. Shenemar, Yaakov said, behold, I am going to die. Hashem will be with you. And he will bring you back to the land of your forefathers. And he also saw that Yosef was going to get personally involved in the burial, meaning that not only would Yosef arrange for Yaakov to get permission, for the family to get permission to bring Yaakov back, but he himself would leave Egypt and come and personally be involved with burying his father, which was a very, very difficult thing for Yosef to do, to leave Egypt based on his position and his tremendous responsibilities. But once Yaakov saw that, Az Amar Lo, that's when Yaakov Avinu said to Yosef, Ve'ani nasati lecha Shechem echad al achecha. I will have given you, I have arranged to give to you the city of Shechem as an extra inheritance more than your brothers. By the way, that's another typo that we see here with the word echad. The second echad should be achecha. It should say Shechem echad al achecha, which is the language of the pasuk. Bishvil she'ata toreach lehisasek b'kfurosi, because you are working so hard to get personally involved in my burial arrangements. Kedei lahadil kavodi, in order to magnify my glory and my honor. Meaning, with Yosef leaving Egypt and personally coming to Eretz Canaan to bury his father, that means his whole entourage came. That means that everyone knew about it, and it became a very big thing. And the Torah, in fact, tells us specifically that the group of people that left Egypt and came to Eretz Yisrael was huge, and it made a big noise in Eretz Canaan. They said, what is all this huge group, this huge conference of people coming from Egypt and crying and mourning? And they actually called the place Avel Mitzrayim, the mourning place of Egypt. And so we know that by Yaakov getting involved, by Yosef getting involved, this brought greater honor to Yaakov. So too I will give you your own special place to be buried in order to honor you. As it states, as Chazal say in the Medrash Rabbah and in the first parak of Masechus Sota, since Yaakov Avinu was kidnapped by the brothers in Shechem, he needed to be returned to that spot and buried there. Chazal tell us that there was great significance to Yosef's ultimately being buried in Shechem, because this was the place, it's as if this was the place that he was taken from, and he needed to be returned to that specific place. So Yaakov is saying, it's to your kavod, it's out of respect for you that I'm going to give you this place to be buried there. And this is the appropriate place for you, Yosef, to be buried. And it was appropriate for Yosef to actually own the land where he was going to be buried, in order that he would be buried specifically and a part of his own inheritance. Meaning, Yosef could have said, Yaakov could have said to Yosef, I want you to be buried in Shechem. It's appropriate for you to be buried in Shechem. But then he would have been possibly buried there, but he wouldn't have owned it. It wouldn't have been part of his nachala. Instead, Yaakov said, the biggest kavod for you, for a person, is to be buried in a place that they actually own. That's part of their inheritance. And so I'm giving you the city of Shechem as your inheritance, and that's where you should be buried, and it's most appropriate, most honorable for you to be buried there. Sheharei v'heshi v'schem, when Yaakov said, God will return you, mashma shekol bonav yachzaru le'eretz Yisrael. This implied that all of his children would be, all of his sons would be returned to Eretz Yisrael, kishayifkod es Yisrael, when Hashem would remember the Jewish people. So this means that Yaakov Avinu was in fact saying, Yosef, not only you, but all of your brothers, all of the 12 brothers would be brought back and buried in Eretz Yisrael, and you, Yosef, you'll be buried specifically in Shechem. Last paragraph. And in truth, that is exactly what happened. The bones of the other brothers came up with Yosef. The Zera Shimshon is telling us something that we do not see clearly in Chumash. And Chumash, certainly much emphasis is given to the fact that Yosef's bones were taken and they were ultimately brought, and the Torah tells us Moshe Rabbeinu made sure to get the bones, Atzmos Yosef, and bring them back to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. But it doesn't talk about what about the bones of Reuben, of Shimon, of Levi, Yehuda, of all of the other brothers. So the Zera Shimshon says, and we'll see in a moment, it's based on a Medrash Rabbah, based on a Chazal, that all of the bones of the brothers were also brought back by Bnei Yisrael from Mitzrayim and buried ultimately in Eretz Yisrael. Kemosha Amru Zichron Levracha, as Chazal say in Bereshis, in the Medrash Rabbah. Moshe Helam in Mitzrayim, and Moshe specifically brought up the bones of Yosef from Mitzrayim, Kiddichsiv, as the pasuk says, Vayikach Moshe's Atzmos Yosef Imo. The pasuk tells us explicitly that Moshe went and brought up the bones of Yosef himself. But the Zera Shimshon has just told us before that Moshe, of course, also gave instructions that the bones of all of the brothers would be brought up and brought back for burial in Eretz Yisrael. The Lama Zocha Yosef Sheyisasek Bo Moshe. Why did Yosef merit that Moshe Rabbeinu himself would be involved personally and taking his bones and bringing them for burial to Eretz Yisrael? It is because Yosef had the merit of being personally involved and dealing with his own father's remains and bringing them up to Egypt. And here the Zera Shimshon quotes the Gemara Sota, and that Gemara is on Daf Tes Amud Beis in Maseches Sota. So what we see here is that there were two parts to Yaakov's request to Yosef. One part was make the arrangements, work with Paro, almost like a diplomatic issue. Work with Paro, my son Yosef, Yaakov says, work with Paro, convince him to let me be buried in Egypt. That's what Yaakov, that was the basic request. And Yosef said, yes, I will do it. And he in fact did do it. But then Yosef said, well, not only will I do that, I'm going to personally step down from my post temporarily here in Egypt, and I'm going to personally come and leave the country and come back to Eretz Yisrael, which again, as we said, it was a very difficult and risky thing for Yosef to do, to get permission to do, but he did it. And so for the first part, the diplomatic part, getting permission, he got no reward for that. And that's why Yaakov Avinu called it chesed ve'emes, a true act of kindness for which Yosef received no reward. When Yosef added on that his personal involvement, that's when his father said to him, you're personally getting involved to increase my honor and to make this a royal procession all the way to Eretz Canaan for my burial. So now I want to do something special for you for your burial, and I'll give you the city of Shechem, and you will personally be buried there as is most appropriate and most honorable for you. And then the Zera Shimshon added something which may not be known to many people, and that is that even though the Torah only tells us explicitly about the Atzmos Yosef being brought back to Eretz Yisrael, actually the bones of all of the brothers, all of Yosef's brothers, were also brought back by Bnei Yisrael and ultimately buried by Bnei Yisrael in appropriate places in Eretz Yisrael when God remembered them and they returned. Yasher Koch, and thank you everyone for participating.